I'm going to pull chat up on my phone.
Good morning, everybody. Haha.
Morning, morning.
We'll be waiting for a little bit.
Yeah.
How's everyone doing? Good evening.
Everybody good?
Hi, Jennifer. Sorry if my voice is a little bit weird today, but I catch the flu overnight, so I do my best not to breathe like Hannibal Lecter or Danielle in the last life.
Yeah, don't be stealing it from me.
So
That's
I'm
my
sorry.
job here.
And my kids are still up too, so I apologize if they call me or say mommy or daddy or whatever. So yeah. Hi, Sarah Jane. Everybody doing all right?
Hi, Sarah Jane. How's it going,
Oh,
everybody?
thank you. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, it will be okay soon. This morning when I woke up, I did a COVID test and it was negative. I really thought I had this stuff.
Yeah, you do not want the Rona.
Oh no. I remember last year when the ambulance was here, man, I thought I had a heart attack.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That is not
Was
good.
my whole system broke down because I was working too much, like 15, 16-hour shifts and stuff. So yeah, it was too much. All right, guys, I think we can start. We have 13 people, that's fine. So what we're going to show you today might be a little bit boring in the start. It's a lot of technical stuff. But we also have a special after the actual live we want to show you. Hi, Carly. And yeah, I would just say I'm going to share my screen with you guys again. And hi, Mr. Chen. And yeah, let's get started.
Just for the record, I don't think it's boring at all, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, the start is a little bit boring, but you got to start at the beginning to get the whole story. All right. Can you guys see it okay?
Looks good at my end.
Oops. Sorry. Wasn't mean to do that. Share again. Can you guys see that?
Not yet, Tanya.
Okay, hold on. Something went wrong. Oh, there you go. Sorry about that. So there you go.
There we go. We're rolling.
So, why I believe Chris Watts had no passengers in his truck on Monday the 13th. To understand the rather complex system Anadarko used for their fleet, we must take a look at the Geotab system. Anadarko was set up on the so-called fleet management plan. There are 4 different types of plan. The plans offer the same base data management, but there are some differences depending on what you want to monitor. So let's take a look at those. These are the 4 different rate plans. There's the base, regulatory, pro, and pro plus. You can read up on the different plans and what they offer in detail. It's mostly technical stuff on geotab.com. And I provide only an overview of the significant functions next. And please be aware that there are many more function and differences between the plans. I just picked what is basically important for this case. And as a Geotab user, you can also set up customized rules depending on what plan you have and if your vehicle does support it. And I'll tell you more on rules later. This is the most significant functions. You can see here the base regulatory Pro and Pro Plus plans Geotab offers. This is engine data. You see the base and regulatory plans don't offer as much as the Pro and the Pro Plus. The Pro Plus and the Pro offers temperature, driver seat belt, passenger seats, occupied, passenger seat belt, the fuel they used, and so on and so on. You just tell me if I go too quick, right?
You're all good.
Okay. Then also, you see here alerts, driver feedback, such as speeding, the driver ID, idling, driving in reverse, rule violations. This is some functions most of them have, but like I said, there are some rules you can set up additionally, and I come to that later. So this is an overview of the 5 pillars of the fleet management, which is only in a Pro or Pro Plus plan, which Anadarko was running with. So this is safety, speeding, harsh braking, reverse, seatbelt, accidents, then fleet, automatic automator, proactive maintenance, vehicle health, fuel consumption, productivity, like stop duration, dispatching, route efficiency, sales calls, and on-time service. This sales calls and on-time service is mostly used for, DHL and all these companies who send out parcels. So basically when you order something on Amazon, for example, you can live track your parcel. Have you ever done this, Danielle?
On Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Amazon. I'm addicted.
This is what sales calls and on-time service means. So Amazon's drivers, obviously, also operating with the fleet management. Then there's compliance, company policies. So you can even put in a rule that applies to your company policies. So an expandability, that's power of the IOX. IOX is nothing other than just a plug-in for input and output. So now that we know about the basic functions, we can move on to dive into the details of rules and the Geotab dashboard. And I want to also note all the photos I've shown so far and going to provide to you moving forward are from the Geotab website. So if you guys want to look that up, you feel free to do so on geotab.com. So this is basically the dashboard. The dashboard is managed by, in this case, the supervisor. The drivers don't have access to that dashboard or to the Geotab in itself. They get a weekly printout if they violate rules such as speeding. It tells the supervisor, is that driver on a high risk for accidents and stuff like that. So they can check the map. They see where you are in real time. They can see engines and maintenance. They can see your fuel. or, to prevent major repairs to the truck. Then rules and groups. This is where you set up all your rules, additional rules to the ones that are already existing. And groups is important for the fleet management, since you can put certain groups or workers or truck drivers or whatever you operate together. Administration, it's like in a Facebook group or whatever. Administration, you can just check and alter and do whatever to the system. So this is map vehicles activity. This is a Geotab dashboard as it usually looks. You can see here that's also just an example pictures. It has nothing to do with the case. So it's not Chris Watt's data or Troy McCoy's data. It's just I screenshotted that from Geotab to just show you how something like this looks like. So this operator or supervisor is tracking one of his drivers. The driver's name is dispatch 10, or the truck or the vehicle is dispatch 10. Driving at the moment 40 miles per hour. You see the time and the date, and you see that little rectangle, which means danger, speeding, time and date of the occurrence of the speeding, the violation of a rule, basically. With the map icon to the left, you can see a driver's current position, speed, and if he did violate safety rules. In this picture, we see the exact time and date when a violation, speeding in this case, occurs. With the button vehicles, you can choose the driver you want to know more of. You can also set the map to satellite. So you don't see the map actually. You can also set it in your administration button to satellite. So if you're pulling a report on Geotab, you can switch to the satellite. That's what I just explained, as well as import all the data you pull into a PDF file, which is important to know in this case, and I'll show you later on why. So the rules. You have the basic functions, such as, for example, monitor speeding. This is a basic function, what all 4 plans offer. You can monitor if a driver is speeding, violating, or whatever. If a driver violates the basic rule of speeding often, you can set up an additional rule for this specific driver to monitor his or her behavior in more detail. Basically meaning you can set up a rule saying, this driver, I don't want you to go over 60 miles an hour. And if you go over 60 miles an hour, I want to get a notification so I can talk to you about your violations. So, but you can also just set up rules if a driver is not violating any basic safety functions at all. For instance, for insurance reasons, because if you have an accident, for example, with your fleet or with one of your fleet trucks, insurance companies are most likely ask, did you monitor him or her? What was the speed? What was this? What was that? And they make their decision based on that. Then you can see here in the group edit, you can assign different colors to the drivers. For example, driver 1 is assigned to the color blue and driver 2 is assigned to orange, and so on and so on. You can also assign different colors to rules and violations. So having the basic rules included in my Geotab dashboard, that's the dashboard I just have shown you. You can always set up additional routes to the whole fleet or a single driver. And this is showing how easy it is to set up additional rules. For example, the seat belts. Having seatbelt usage set up as a standard safety rule, you can still always customize having, for instance, the passenger seats monitored. And on the right side, it will show you, that's also from the Geotab website, a manual where you can go through and just follow their manual, and then you can set up additional rules. On the left side, you see, you just click on the left side on the button rules, go to add, and you can add any rules, additional, or alter them or customize them to your liking and to your needs. So, does the Go device register the passenger seat belt? So the Go device, that's the device Anadarko uses for its trucks, does track passenger seat belt as long as the vehicle supports it. You can check this by setting up a custom rule for passenger seat belts. And I actually did that on their website. I checked what models have support the passenger seat belt rule, and it goes for all Ford F models support the system. So let's hear what the lady says about the seatbelt rules. Maybe she can explain that a little bit better than I do. So let's listen to her.
Check that information. Okay, moving on to seatbelt. From what we've seen, seatbelts are used much less than you would expect. By monitoring, the compliance can go from 80% to 99.8%. And this was actually from a large case study that we have. Our system is able to read seatbelt information from a lot of vehicles these days. You can see that the seatbelt support is not as vast as we saw with the odometer and the fuel. And that is a lot of the times it's relating to the actual manufacturers. Now, we actually do have an algorithm where we can detect seatbelt usage based on the data from the first few trips of the vehicle after the device was installed. So our system, it's kind of behavior based. What we're looking for is standard seatbelts use, where somebody gets in their vehicle, their seatbelt is unbuckled, they're probably either going to buckle it before they start the ignition, or they're going to start the ignition and buckle it. They're going to drive, unbuckle. So we're looking for that standard behavior of a seatbelt so that we make sure that we pick up the proper data set. We're not picking up a rear door opening or something along those lines. So it takes us a few trips for us to kind of determine the seatbelt data, and then we'll be able to provide you with that accurate information. Now, what we do is at the beginning and the end of a trip, we'll kind of reset that seatbelt information. So let's say at the beginning of a trip, we're going to see a -1 beside the seatbelts log. That means that it's reset. It's kind of in a nothing state. And then once we start to see the seatbelt data, we'll pass that through. So then we'll see, okay, well, actually it looks like the seatbelt is unbuckled. So we'll log that. And then we'll see, okay, now they've buckled it, and we'll put that log through. At the end of the trip, we'll go back to that unknown or nothing state to make sure that rules that are being created on the seatbelt data aren't coming up as inaccurate, just in case maybe the device was unplugged, mid-trip or at the end of the trip. We want to make sure that we're not looking at days worth of seatbelt unbuckled. We always want to put it into that kind of reset state.
Right. So like she says, seatbelts are used much less than expected by monitoring. That means people or employers, they just don't check unless you get an alert for it. So what she says is basically they monitor behavior for the first few trips to make that system go in, send data to the system to create a pattern of the driver's behavior, and the system would register unusual seatbelt use. That means if somebody always goes into his truck alone at 6:30 in the morning and does that for quite some time, the system would register unusual seatbelt use if this driver would have passengers all of a sudden, for example. So these are the icons. You can see that later clearly. Depending on what color you assign to a driver, it will show up in the color you choose for him or her. That we know already. So I have put some icons. These are actually taken from the Discovery from that map where he was tracked on Cervi 1029. So there's a stopped icon, stopped inside zone icon, idling icon. If you run slowly while disconnected from a load or out of gear, then a backing up when leaving icon. And there's also a custom backing up when leaving. So you see, it says custom backing up when leaving. So Anadarko must have put an additional rule to the already existing rule of backing up when leaving. We don't know what that additional rule is, though. So what has this all to do with the case? What we know so far is Anadarko is using Geotab. Anadarko is using the Pro or Pro Plus plan under the fleet management. Operators are not allowed to make or take phone calls during driving. It would trigger an alert. Operators communicate via the app GroupMe. GroupMe is accessed through the operator's work phone, which is linked to Geotab. Operators have limited personal use of trucks. They must ask. And before someone asks, no, you cannot temper, turn off, remove, or anything the Geotab device. It would start an immediate alert. So let's take a look at the discovery of the interview of John Tuckwiller. That's Luke Apple's boss, actually. So John states, Anadarko is using Geotab. He believes Geotab updates every 1 to 10 minutes, which is not true because the Plan Pro or Pro Plus offers real-time tracking. Geotab offers information to include, but not limited to, seatbelt use, hard acceleration and deceleration. Speed, work truck can only be used for work-related tasks. And underneath, I put the excerpt of the discovery where he says, Anadarko work trucks are equipped with GPS monitoring. Tuckwiller was not sure of the frequency in which the GPS updates in relation to a vehicle's location, but we know now it's real time. But he believed it may update every 1 to 10 minutes. Anadarko uses a service called Geotab. This service tracks information to include, but not limited to, seatbelt use, hard acceleration and deceleration, and speed. Work truck use is limited to work-related tasks only. Operators also utilize a messaging application called GroupMe to send and receive messages to other crews and the operations center regarding tasks, locations, and other work-related information. GroupMe is typically accessed by the employee's work telephone. Then we have Luke Apple, that's what supervisor. So Luke Apple is actually the one who would have access to the Geotab dashboard. And Luke states, Watts told him he would be staying with a friend in case Apple saw unusual activity on Geotab. So Watts knows damn well what Geotab tracks and what he can do and what he's not allowed to do. So trucks can be used from and to work only. Geotab pulls location every 1 to 100 seconds. Apple last physically saw Watts on or about Thursday, August 9, 2018. After Watts' family was reported missing, Watts told Apple that he may be staying with a friend in the event Apple saw unusual activity on his work truck's Geotab monitoring. Apple explained that Watts was aware that his truck had GPS monitoring and was tracked by Anadarko. Work trucks can be used for minor deviations to and from work, and Watts told Apple that he would not be staying too far from his home address. Apple explained that Geotab pulls location data approximately every 5 to 100 seconds. Geotab document, I made a mistake up there. It's 1 or 100 seconds. So 5 to 100 seconds. Geotab documents other information such as when the vehicle is turned on and off. Anadarko switched to Geotab from another provider in approximately May or June 2018. So now that you know all the important background info, let's take a look at what's behavior in August 13th, 2018. Watts was assigned the color yellow by Anadarko. And this is what it looks like when you pull the data you want to know or from tracking into a PDF file, because this is what they actually did. They pulled the data of Chris Watts and Troy McCoy, I believe, and put it in a PDF file, because this is what we know was given to the police from, I believe it was Husky. So this is an excerpt of a picture taken from the Discovery. You see here Watts is yellow and McCoy's route is held in like a bluish purple. That's the side of Cervi 319. And you remember the icons I told you before: stopped, idling, stopped inside a zone, custom, backing up when leaving, and backing up when leaving. So what we see here is they violated some sort of rule. You see that on the light blue rectangle. And they have the star as an icon. That means they stopped inside a zone. Stopping inside a zone means a zone that is known to the system. So they frequently approached the Cervi 319. Otherwise, the system Geotab wouldn't know that this is a work zone. And so is Cervi 1029, or if they go every for their lunch break every day to McDonald's, this would be registered as a zone for the system. So you see here the screenshot of the Discovery from Cervi 1029. And here you can see some more violations of, in this case, the red triangle, Troy McCoy. And just keep in mind the sign stopped, idling, stopped inside the zone. We have that here as well. Custom, backing up when leaving, and backing up when leaving. So we see here clearly Watts drove around the tanks, probably to go to the toilet, as we now know. And these light blue lines you see, this is idling. So what do we know about idling? He had no gear in and kind of basically rolled along. Then we see on the right side of this picture, underneath that light blue line, that he backed up into the field. Yeah, which is kind of like, I don't know, a little bit weird to do. So he basically drove into the field a little bit, backed up, and got out of the field the other way around. He does that twice on the way in and on the way out. So this is the violations, a little bit in a close-up. So you see at Cervi 319, they both had a violation in light blue. At Cervi 1029, McCoy had a violation. And to the right side, this is what I've shown you before. This is what it actually looks like in the normal mode and not in the satellite mode, which is provided here in the Discovery. So this is also an example taken from the Geotab website. This is what this dashboard normally looks before you convert it into PDF. And if you notice all the little red triangles on the right side of this driver's map, he violated quite a bit. But yeah, we actually don't know because it's just an example of the website. I just wanted to show you how that actually looks. So see, this is what shows up, gliding your cursor over the red triangle. So if you actually glide your mouse over that red triangle, it would immediately show you what the driver did or why the driver violated rules. In this case, it was speeding, and you see the time and date. So this is actually Chris Watt's map from Geotab, taken from the Discovery as a screenshot. Bluish yellow, bluish purple is McCoy, and yellow, yeah, it seems like it's greenish yellow, but that's Watts. We see neither in this report nor in the GPS tracking did they once ask, and I mean law enforcement, what violations Watts had. But thankfully we now know. Based on the color of the triangle, remember I told you can customize colors, which is dark blue and red. We now know he violated the rule, custom backing up when leaving and backing up when leaving. So you see here where it says Saratoga Trail. It's actually, I cannot make that bigger because it gets so blurry, but it actually is two triangles next to each other. So he violated basically both of them rules. At Saratoga Trail, meaning backing up violently or whatever custom rule Anadarko set up for them. So at Cervi 319, both Watts and McCoy at Cervi 1029, McCoy violated based on the color assigned. So the light blue, they violated the rule of idling. And McCoy violated the rule of backing up when leaving because his little triangle is red. So if NK or the children were sitting in one of the seats, then why wasn't there an alert for unusual seatbelt use triggered? This is the big question. You see here, if he would have a passenger in his truck, it immediately starts triggering unusual behavior. So if that was, and it is a rule, we now know it is a rule in the Pro and in the Pro Plus plan of the fleet management. So if he had passengers in the seat, doesn't matter if back seat or passenger seat, and they are not allowed to use their truck for private anyway, they always have to ask. So for insurance reasons, Anadarko set this up. So they must know when it's unusual behavior. So, and having passengers is basically triggered as unusual behavior. Because when you remember what the lady of Anadarko, of Geotab said, they monitor for a few days to find out the behavior of the driver. So if he goes to work every day, 6:30 in the morning, always alone, buckles up his seatbelt, and all of a sudden he has kids or passengers, I'd say, in his truck, why didn't it alert? So, and this is what they missed big time. But like
Tanya,
the lady from, yeah.
Sorry, Tanya. Jennifer in chat is just saying, as long as they use the seatbelt, as long as they use a seatbelt, but if they didn't use a seatbelt, then it wouldn't show. But that's what Tanya is explaining, that the seatbelt usage violations, they only happen, like say for example, Watts every morning picked up an Anadarko co-worker on his way in who was always sitting in the passenger seat, and they
Right.
shared a vehicle, then it wouldn't be strange. But because he doesn't, and because there would be no seatbelt usage outside of the driver's seat, it would flag as an unusual activity, whether it be the passenger seat or the rear seat belts, because his model of truck is capable of that information. Because in the Pro Plus plan, you have to have a vehicle that's able to communicate that seatbelt activity, and his is. So that's what we're trying to explain, that weight on the seat and having anybody in the vehicle at all outside of the driver, it would be unusual activity. Not to mention the fact that the seatbelt, the F250 comes equipped with seatbelt reminder tone, like most vehicles. So don't forget, he was making phone calls from inside the car, and if they didn't have seatbelts on, whoever he was on the phone to would have been hearing bing, 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 bing.
Right.
So
Yeah, and just to make it clear, that drivers are not getting notifications in written form. That means Geotab only alerts the supervisor. So they get a weekly printout. It's somewhere in the discovery, and Luke Apple explains all that as well. They get a weekly printout of their violations, and basically, yeah, they're getting talked to as well if that happens more often. I mean, it's a safety issue. And we know Anadarko does quite a lot for safety, because they pay so high insurance money, so they don't want to get anything wrong in this case, you know. So yeah, Stacy B, no, the police has law enforcement has not looked into this, because they obviously stopped investigating. But we now know what violations they had based on the colors assigned, and no, they didn't look any further,
yeah, guys,
unfortunately.
the guys in chat that are asking about the weight on the seat, I mean, even one of my vehicles that we have here, that's a 2007, and keep in mind his was a 2015 highest range F250. My vehicle,
Right.
that is the 2007 vehicle that we have, it's equipped. If I put a heavy shopping bag on the passenger seat or any of the two back seats, it will tell me that there's a passenger and they need to have their seatbelt buckled. And within 30 seconds of me driving, if they don't, it will bing like crazy. And
Right.
that's 14-year-old technology. His truck was only 3 years old at the time.
Exactly. And they know all Anadarko workers. They all know you can't beat that system. I mean, the truck stops when they trying to call, take phone calls or make phone calls. So they know that, and it's rarely that they violate these rules as well. Like they do sometimes, maybe a little bit speeding or backing up or violating these minor rules. But what's new, that system inside out. So he knew, if I buckle them in the back seat, or if NK was sitting in the passenger seat, it would immediately raise alarm, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, Angie in chat saying my 80-pound dog sets hers off. I feel you, Angie. My dog does that
Yeah.
as well. As soon as she jumps from the front to the back, and we've actually had to get a seatbelt to buckle her in, because it's the same. As soon as she would be on the seat, it goes bing, 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 and she has her own little doggy seatbelt now. Well, say little, she's huge, but it would have went crazy. It drove me insane. When she's jumping from the footwell up onto the seat, and as I say, that's an older vehicle because that's why we have it, because we transport the dogs in it. So you're absolutely right about
Yeah.
that one.
And it starts with like beep, 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 beep. It's
Yeah,
annoying.
and gets
It's
faster. Yeah, and what you were saying
oh
there, Tanya, you were saying about him having knowledge of it. It is actually in the discovery. I wish I could remember which one of the co-workers it was, but one of the co-workers, when they're giving their statement to the CBI, actually passes comment about how Geotab has only just come into effect, and they changed over systems the previous month, and the guy is saying to the CBI guy is saying, he's saying to him, look, Watts was so good, like he knew this system inside out, so he would have been well aware of that. And as I say, for the people saying as well about the totes, Tanya, you know about the totes, the photographs of the totes in the back seat, that you saw of the vehicle. There's photographs in Discovery, wasn't there?
No, there was no. Oh, Mary. Hi, Mary. My friend Mary is here.
Hi, Mary.
Mary is part of our team, but she's not feeling so well at the moment. So she at least is watching. Hi, Mary. Yes, Mary is saying, I remember at one point he claimed he had work totes in the back seat. That's true. In the Discovery, I wasn't able to find it, though. I didn't really look, to be honest. But yeah, somewhere in the Discovery, and I can find that for you guys for the next live. The officer claims that when he approached Chris Watts's truck, you can see that on body cam, the two officers who are approaching his truck when he stands next to the truck. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
Outside of his house. And this officer later on states in his report that he could see two large totes in the back of or back seat or rear area of the truck. So he doesn't explain it very well, though, because if there were totes in the back seat, so I mean that's a no-brainer. The kids weren't in there, and he states also they were full with tools.
Yeah, equipment. That's right. I remember reading that report.
Tools so I'm not quite sure if he says if he means those metal totes he has on the truck bed, but then I think, and it's just my opinion, he wouldn't say in the rear area, would he? Or
no,
back seat?
I wouldn't imagine.
I mean, that's the truck bed, so it's something completely different, in my opinion.
Well, I actually recently read the description of what's in the bed of the truck, and there was no mention of that, so I don't believe it's not the same report.
Sorry, say again. I was reading the comment.
I recently just read the report that was explaining what was in the flatbed area, and it didn't have that description, so I don't believe that was the same description as the backseat area. He definitely isn't describing the flatbed area because he's saying about a shovel is sitting beside them, so I don't think he's referring to a shovel sitting in the back seat.
Yeah, and it was just weird because in this report he really states like a little timeline. He states like approaching the truck bed and describes what he sees, and then moving on, opening the doors of the truck, and then he explains what he sees. It's a shame I didn't pull that up for you guys, but I will definitely next time. Yeah. So yeah, in my opinion, there's no shadow, no NK, and no kids in his truck, based on what we know now. And I've been scooping through the Geotab website a whole week. So I still believe the kids were taken out, like we mentioned in our last live. When you see on Nate's footage actually headlights going off and someone pulling into the driveway, I still believe the kids were taken out earlier and the kids were not there anymore when Shanann got home. So, and this basically, in my opinion, backs up that theory. I don't know, what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, people have always made such a big deal about, him making the phone calls from inside the truck that morning, and how, you know, how would he have kept the
Right.
children quiet if they were still alive? And I think this just adds another element to that. You know, not only are you going to explain how maybe a child would go daddy or cry or, you know, let out a noise, how are you
Right.
explaining that, but how are you going to explain your seatbelt ding 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 dinging in the background? Not to mention the
Right.
fact that it stresses me out if it goes off for 10 seconds, never mind
Yeah.
45 minutes. So there's just
Right.
no way. There's just no way.
And also keep in mind, when he left Saratoga Trail, there was almost daylight. So the chances of
Right.
him getting pulled over by police are very high, especially in this
Yeah.
area, in the oil field area and stuff. So yeah, I don't think he would have taken the risk. And what I have told you earlier as well, you guys gotta, you know, most people only have Nate's video view in mind when they see some shadows or whatever they see. But just look the other way around. Imagine you coming from the other side of the road. Do you really think that he would drag out Shanann in a bed sheet and his kids in the basically open area where he always has to, you know, think, oh, somebody's coming or a car's driving by and I have a body laying there wrapped in a sheet? Well, I just don't see it.
No,
So
I don't
really,
either.
guys, just go to Street View or to Google Maps or Google Earth and just try to watch that from the other side of the road, not through
Yeah.
Nate's camera. So you
Guys,
get a
you know,
completely different view.
there's two really good videos on YouTube. You've got the doorbell cam video, which will give you the nighttime view, and if you look behind Shanann as she's approaching the front door, just look straight across the road, like literally parallel to their front piece of grass. That house, as I mentioned in the last live, that house is lit up like Christmas. It has immense amount of security and floodlights, and they have an unobstructed view across his lawn and right to the truck where it would be parked, and they're looking
Right,
at the side where you're suggesting they would have been, or she would have been dragged out, in a bright white slash grey sheet. You know, we're not talking about in a black bag here. We're talking about in a bright white sheet moments before sun's up. So
right,
I can't believe it. Then the other video is the questionable dog search lady, the Sardis dog. So when she gets out of her vehicle and starts making her way across the road with the police officer, look at her body cam. Her body cam shows the exact shape if you were coming towards the Watts house from Betty's direction. And just for a second, put yourself in the position that the truck's there in the driveway. You have full uninterrupted view, full
right,
uninterrupted view. He has no
right,
control whatsoever if somebody drives down Wyndham, which is facing him, or drives down Saratoga from Betty's direction. Like, he has
right,
no control over that at all. So, you know, you got to keep
right.
that in mind. Not everybody in the neighborhood is watching him from behind a bush. So, you know, keep that in mind. There was
Exactly. Yeah,
no tree that obstructing the view from across the street or from the left-hand side of the house whatsoever. You know, everybody had full
yeah.
view of what he was doing, you know?
And also he knows who in the neighborhood has cameras. He knows there are no cameras in the back, you know, and when you see him walking out the truck, like I showed in the debunking the shadows life of ours, you know, he would have been the speediest man on earth, because once he picks something up, he immediately is in front of the truck. So this is
Yeah.
like
Within
impossible.
a count of 2 seconds, he's in front of the front driver's headlamp. So
Yeah,
it's impossible. I mean, even for me to walk from my door around the open door in front of the headlamp, the fastest I could do it was 2 seconds, and I'm not carrying a 4-year-old. So, you know,
Right.
and then you're
Yeah.
saying, you're insinuating as well that he's walking out in full view in front of everyone carrying a child. So again,
Right.
you know, you're upping, you know, his risk. Tanya, Karen is just saying in chat, you know, maybe she thinks the girls were handed off. And we're just saying, I actually meant to say to Tanya just to clear up a little misinformation that's out there regarding Watts's journey to Cervi 319 and whether he stops or not. So if you can clarify that, Tanya.
Sorry, I lost connection for a second.
Sorry, Tanya. We were discussing because there's a bit of misinformation out there that the journey from Saratoga to Cervi was a broken journey that he stopped.
Oh,
If you
yeah.
could clarify that.
Yeah. So people think that he stopped on the way to Cervi. I just gotta find the slide real quick. So no, he did not. Remember when I told you all the stops? Remember the icons I showed you? When it stops, it would show. When he stops with the engine on, it would show. With the engine off, it would show. So every little thing, it's basically locked. So when you look at this, August the 13th, 5:18, he started the truck. And he was, unlike people think, he was an hour or 50 minutes in his driveway. He actually was only 27 minutes in his driveway. So then he drove to Cervi 319, which is 47 minutes, straight run, no stops, no pulling over, no nothing, straight for 47 minutes, and he stays there for 2 hours and 36 minutes. Then at 9:39, he starts the engine again, drives for 2 minutes to Cervi 10:29, stays there for 3 minutes and 13 seconds until he turns the engine on again, drives around, does these little weird backing up, moving forward kind of moves, and it's all registered. So no, he did not stop. The only time he stopped was at that trash can at Black Mesa Road in Erie. So he stopped there for 44 minutes, for 4 minutes. And 4 minutes is a long time, guys. So yeah, whatever he did there. So, but you can clearly see he drove from Cervi 10:29, 44 minutes until he reached the dump stand Black Mesa. And then he actually drove to Saratoga, which is right around the corner, so just a few feet. And it doesn't register a distance or anything. So yeah, no, it was a fluid drive, no stops, nothing.
Tanya, somebody in chat, it's Karen, is asking how long can the truck be stopped before it registers it on the Geotab? So if he stops at a traffic light, for say, does that show?
Immediately, yes. Yes, but that's not unusual behavior. So the GPS is linked to the satellites. That's why it has GPS, the Geotab. So they would know there's a traffic light, there is a stop sign, there's roadworks, stuff like that. So Geotab gets its information through satellite information data. So yeah, they would know, but they don't actually register that. Let's say they don't register, oh, he stopped now at a traffic light, because that's not unusual behavior.
So
Right.
Catherine in chat, Tanya is asking, do you have records of the drive back to the house? Because it's been said that there's a cadaver dog hid on a portable toilet. I think he changed his clothes there and then dropped them off in the dumpster.
No, that's actually, we don't have like a map of his on where he was on his way home, but I do have the screenshot of the discovery. Where is it again? Gotta search for it quick.
That is that the PDF?
Yeah, that's here. So he did not stop at a toilet. He did stop for 4 minutes at Black Mesa Road, or lane, or what it is. This is where he stopped for 4 minutes before going home, and this is also logged in the PDF file. So Geotab logged basically that he stopped at Black Mesa Road for 4 minutes and then continued on driving to his house at Saratoga Trail.
Yes, Stacey in chat is just saying that we know at least 2 other cars left the immediate area right about the time that he left his driveway. So it's they were probably in one or both of these cars. Well, the thing is, Stacey, in last week's video, we actually showed that with the activity from Nate's CCTV on his CCTV menu screen, you can go back and watch this on last week's live. There's actual stills from little thumbnails where you can see that motion was detected at various times on the Watts driveway, and you can see that it's a vehicle with headlights parked in the Watts driveway with the headlights facing the garage doors, and at the exact same times Watts's phone is connecting and disconnecting to the internet and the router activity, and he's also on that 111-minute phone call with NK. So he definitely, 100% leaves the house. And then the moment he comes back, his phone reconnects and he hangs up from her. So
Right.
it would suggest that he left in one of those vehicles that pulled into the driveway. So I don't think those children came out the front of the house there and then, because there's obviously Nate would have footage of that. But I think if he left and went, and we know what happened with Nate's footage, it was left so long in limbo with the warrant and the requests to have it, that they came back from Vivint and said, or sorry, not Vivint, Comcast, and said, sorry, there was no other activity recorded. It's it's been written over, and it's out of the time. It's too late. So we will never get that footage, but you can see the motion detection registered. It says motion detected, and
Right.
it's in 30 something, isn't that right, Tanya? And then again at 10:50 something, or 47 maybe, and then again at 20 past 11. So someone
Right.
comes, sits in the driveway for a while, then goes away,
Yeah.
then someone else comes back, we would assume, sits in the driveway,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
leaves again. So
So I
there's
think,
definitely a car in
yeah,
the driveway.
I think at least the kids were taken out before Shanann got home. This is my theory. And yeah, I just recommend everybody to watch our last week's live and the week before, maybe, so you can see the shadow, the non-existing shadow, in my opinion. I mean, I don't want to debunk anyone, but I just can't see it, and it's rational explanation. So yeah. All right.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
I mean, if I edit footage over and over and over again, I see a clown hanging from a tree if I want to. I mean,
Yeah.
sounds a little bit rude, but it is what it
Yeah.
is, and I'm
Um,
kind of
sorry, Tanya.
fact-based. So
I was just gonna say, sorry to cut you off there. There's a wee lagging, or you talking and me talking. It seems like I'm cutting you off, so I apologize. Stacey in chat just wanted to answer for Tanya, to answer you, because she's done a lot of research into this. So Stacey's saying you would think that a tote full of heavy tools would set off the seatbelt sensors. But yeah, that's kind of what we were explaining, though, is that the totes weren't in the back seat when he was leaving. There was nothing heavy on the back seat, because if there was, the seatbelt alarms would have been going off. So he can't have anything heavy on the back seats. And actually, if I'm not mistaken, in the F250 model, the two back seats pads, what I call them, that you sit on, that your bottom's in contact with. Some of them lift up, so you can put things in underneath them, but not enough. Where you're talking small items. It's
Yeah.
dependent on which customized one he has, but they're there for like storage of very small items. Like, I mean, you wouldn't even be talking the size of a 3 or 4 year old. They're small items, but they still have the monitors for the weight of somebody sitting on the seat. So you wouldn't really be putting anything like that in the back seat. I
Right.
don't think you would be transporting anything like that in the back seat.
Right. I mean, I really recommend everyone to go to the Geotab website, because it's really amazing what the system can figure out and what the system monitors and what it does. So to explain everything in great detail, that would just take 2 days.
Yeah.
So I just thought I showed you the basics.
Yeah.
We know that the seat belts were monitored, and it was no unusual seatbelt use or any unusuality basically detected. So, and therefore my conclusion is there was nobody else sitting in this truck on that Monday morning.
Yeah. I mean, the Geotab is crazy. I mean, one of the things that when I first saw this, I asked questions in my mind,
It's
just
amazing.
from a technical point of view, was what did the reversing alert mean? Like, why would you get in trouble for reversing? And I think if you're from the UK, well, maybe if you're from the US as well, but if you're from the UK, I was kind of like a bit puzzled. And I went on to Geotab and listened to one of their videos on it. And basically, there's a lot of research that shows that if you arrive at a destination, and you drive nose first into, say, a parking space, or just wherever you're parking your vehicle, you are much less aware of your surroundings when you come back to the vehicle. So when you're reversing back out, mentally you're much less switched on and much more at risk of an accident happening than you are when you arrive. Because when you arrive, you're looking around you, you're looking at your surroundings, you're judging where you're going to park, who's around, what vehicles are there. So that's why you get penalised if you do not reverse into the space at the time of arrival, as opposed to reversing out of the space. So that's what that was, just in case anybody's wondering what that is. And then what Tanya was explaining is that Anadarko has went that step further and double penalised. So they've made the reversing alert like a kind of even worse crime. So they've attached a second a second reversing rule on there. So they've got the original reversing in. So if you reverse in, you're all good. If you reverse as you're leaving, you're in trouble. And then they've added an additional backing up when leaving alert. So we don't know what that is, because it's a customized thing that Anadarko have decided. I wouldn't even want to speculate on what it is, but it is.
I mean, we can speculate. I think it has something to do with heartbreaking.
Yes,
probably.
Yeah. Highly likely.
Yeah, and also what I wanted to say, Geotab has a patent on this stuff. So there's no other fleet management or GPS tracking that can do what Geotab does. So that's just for your information. In case somebody comes and says Geotab does this and does that and doesn't this and doesn't that. So yeah, it's patent. It's a patent on it.
Yeah, it's very, very cool system. I was really shocked at the stuff that it does, and the customer service and the support that they have built into the package is crazy.
Right. That's true. Yeah. I mean, back in the days, I read a court case about Anadarko during my research, and that was in 2012. They basically sent maps and roads information to their drivers via SMS. and there was a case that a driver died hitting a gate. And ever since then, I mean, the judge ruled that it's an unfortunate event, but they couldn't say if it was Anadarko's fault or if it was the driver's fault. And this hit hard. This happened in Texas. I mean, Anadarko is all over the US, and this happened in Texas. And since 2012, they then decided to get some sort of fleet management system in place to prevent something, stuff like this from happening again, you know? So, yeah, I think they were with Fleetmatics from 2012 to 2018, I read today, but I cannot say for sure. So,
That
yeah.
name sounds really familiar, actually. That sounds really familiar.
Fleet Statics or Fleetmatics or
Yeah.
something like this. Yeah, they were with them before. But since Geotab it's the best GPS system and tracking, I would say, in what's out there at the moment. So, yeah.
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 I wouldn't want to have Geotab in my vehicle, let's put it that way. It pretty much knows when you're blowing your nose.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I don't want to be watched that much, thanks.
I mean, the only thing I was searching for if they record audio, for example, and this is the only thing they don't do. So they don't record what's been said inside your truck. That's very unfortunate, but yeah, I can understand that
is
too.
unfortunate.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I hope I could explain that a little bit to you guys, and, you know, just a rational explanation about there was no shadow. And in my opinion, of course, I don't want to, you know, change your minds. I just wanted to show you, because I get messages and stuff so often saying, oh, you're wrong, you're this, you're that, but, you know, they never bring anything to the table. So I got to do my own research to basically prove it's a possibility. It's always a possibility, but I'm quite sure that it's enough proof to say that the kids weren't in the backseat. Definitely. So yeah, we have.
Tanya, I always say I'm always happy to be proved wrong. If it's, you know,
Yeah, of
somebody
course.
bringing information to the table, I welcome the information. If it proves I'm wrong, oh my goodness, no problem. Like, it's not an issue. Except, don't tell my other half that. He's not allowed to know that. But yeah, when it comes to this case, I definitely don't have an issue with being proved wrong. But I really detest people that are saying, you know, not in regards to this, obviously, but just in general on this whole case, that you're wrong, that's not true, or, you know, they'll just put on a post false or lies, or that, you know, that's not right. Well, you know, give me what you mean, you know, point me in the direction, you know. Yeah, give me a little bit more than I'm wrong would really help.
Yeah, well, if they don't have anything to say, then don't. Okay, guys, we have tonight's special. That was basically all Danielle's work. I have no clue about this stuff. So, Danielle, you just tell me when to go to the next slide.
Yeah,
and
sure.
We wanted to present you with the Chris Watts Clue connections.
Yeah, so guys, anybody that watched last week knows that we spent a bit of time kind of digging into these clues, and we left a lot out because, quite frankly, there's so many. But we also covered last week the ones that we can connect actual, provable, factual. But the thing is, people always also jump to the conclusion that the fans were on upstairs on full blast. But if the AC was down, that would make sense.
Right.
You know, if the AC was down, though, you would have your fans on full blast. You know, in Colorado in August, you know, you would be dying. You'd be absolutely heat stroked out. So I get the, you know, if the AC was down, that would have been on the blast. But then none of the visitors to the home mentioned that the AC was down. The people that were there on Monday night, none of the cops passed comment on it being particularly warm in the home. So, maybe the AC thing, he switched it off because he had hidden something in the AC vent. Wouldn't be the first time in a crime case evidence was found inside an AC vent.
Yeah.
So,
I think they should just go back and search the house again.
yeah, I mean, I
know?
don't think it's within the realms of possibility that the house would be searched again, because the fixtures and fittings are the same and remain the same, and I don't believe that even if they've had cleaners in from the housing association, that they would have
Well,
cleaned
not going into
inside.
the pipe.
Nah, they're not going to have gone into fixtures and fittings, and let's face it, they wouldn't have had the AC going when there's been no one in the home.
Right.
So I really do think, guys, that if I put myself in his shoes for 1 second, I would have hidden something somewhere. I mean, I would have, if it was me. And if you were under duress and you wanted to prove later down the line that, you had evidence or whatever, even if it's just to say, hey, listen, if something, remember he wrote a note in North Carolina. So doing that kind of thing is going to be in his mind, write a note to keep yourself right, hide it somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
He'd only just done that the week before.
Right.
There's Ray taped his to the side of a computer stack, and his wife didn't even find that right away. So,
Right.
and I mean, I think you would all agree in the contents that I read out to you that is not a suicide letter. It's not.
No, I think he was in a state of mind where he really thought, if I go through the roof, I wake up.
Yeah. Yeah, I
You
think
know?
he thought he was in an initiation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it points all to NK, to be honest. It all
Yeah.
points to her. There were people in the comments saying also, they wonder where they met. I mean, she looked up Shanann and Chris in 2017, so I don't know. And I spotted something in the discovery where law enforcement got an email from a woman, but her name is blacked out. And she said she knows her, and she was working for a different company a few years back, and she did the same thing to her husband, something along those lines. But
Wow.
yeah, I don't know if they ever got back to her. It's in the discovery. They put screenshots of her email and also the company she worked for previously before going to Anadarko. So we gotta look into this a little bit more in depth, because this is quite interesting. Because if
Yeah.
she's like on a spree, like not only stealing husbands, but pulling through with that stuff,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, the thing is as well, I posted this before in your group, Tanya, a couple of weeks ago. And I think, it still just plays in my mind a lot. In 2017, obviously, we're aware of the two different Anadarko incidents, both with fatalities. So the first one being a residential home, which exploded because a dormant gas pipe was running underneath the home. And when the owner of the home and his relative were working on the home, they struck the gas pipe. I think they ignited it, and basically the house just blew up, this giant fireball. And the two men were killed, and there was a neighbor injured, and it was horrendous. And Anadarko were found to be at fault and paid out, I believe, $18 million on that accident. And then literally a month later, an operator, which is a guy in the exact same role as Chris, two operators were out on a well site, basically exactly like Cervi. They were dealing with batteries, exactly like the ones that the girls were found in, and they made a mistake, and whatever they did, the the batteries exploded, and there was fatalities, and again Anadarko had to pay out. And 4 months from those two fatal accidents to the date when Kessinger starts looking them up. So
Right.
4 months. So it makes me wonder, she was at the time working for this other company. Her dad though was working for Anadarko. And it just makes me wonder, like her dad had filed for bankruptcy, was in a pretty bad way financially. And then you've got her who, during her interviews, talks about money all the time. She
Oh,
brings
yeah.
it up. She brings it up
How
a lot.
she was basically his financial advisor.
Yeah, she brings up money a lot. So
Oh my God.
it
Yeah.
made me think, this girl's head is turned by money. So, you put those things together, and yeah, this really is, just a theory. And I hate theories, but I'm gonna say it anyway. What if her and Daddy Dearest got together and said, you know what? We could simulate an explosion, no problem, but we need somebody who is good, and we need a mark. We need someone who is not going to open their mouth, and we need to give him a reason that we're going to have something over him. And I mean, honey trapping is a real thing, guys. Honey trapping is very real, where they send in either a male or female, depending on your target, and they trap them sexually by, making moves on them, and then they hold that over them as leverage to get them to either do something that they want them to do, or to extort money financially. I mean, if you look up honey trapping on Wikipedia, it gives you a really good rundown. I know it's self-explanatory, but for people who really maybe haven't come across it, it's a huge thing, especially within business claims. Oh my goodness, honey trapping happens all the time. Really high level executives are targeted by honey trappers a lot. So it wouldn't be a big stretch of the imagination to say that she sought him out. He's a
Right.
perfect mark. He's perfect. He's shy. He's quiet. Doesn't talk back. Isn't this outgoing dude that's going to run his mouth to everybody that he's doing a side chick. He's going to keep it on the quiet. And he's got marriage problems. He's got financial problems. Like, she literally had him by the ghoulies.
Yeah.
And then if she's going to turn around and be like, I'm going to blow up your life here, but I don't think it went that way. I think she turned on the charm as opposed to the threats. I think it was, oh no, babe, like we're gonna be together forever. You're so amazing. Like, you don't think it's a bit of a coincidence that she turned up in his life, loving everything that he loves, having interest in everything that he loves, and she
I
is
was
the
just about to
exact
say that. Yeah.
yeah, she's the exact opposite of Shanann. So Shanann is deeply into social media, very online. Then you've got NK, doesn't even have Facebook, doesn't have
Bullshit.
doesn't have yeah, but doesn't live on her phone, so to speak. That's what she portrays, right? So
Right.
then you've got Shanann, who's really into how everything appears and how everything looks. And then you've got NK, doesn't really care, couldn't care less, is kind of putting it out there that she's just thrown together and go girl, very rough and ready, plays with the
Right.
boys, gets down with the boys. And he just freaking loves that. And I think she made herself into his perfect woman because she was trying to trap him.
Yeah.
And Tanya, you and I have already discussed that we're going to go a real deep dive into Lazy Dog, because there's things in the discovery regarding Lazy Dog that we haven't heard other people talk about that we really want to bring to you guys, but we really need to get a lot of ducks in a line. But there's real serious inconsistencies with how they investigated the Lazy Dog on the Saturday evening and how they followed up with that. So stuff that really does make you go, So in regards to what happened that night, I just think whatever happened on that Saturday night at the Lazy Dog changed everything. Again, circles back round. Chris bangs on about it all the time. If I hadn't went on Saturday night, if I just hadn't went on Saturday night. Like, he keeps he even told his dad when he picked them up from the airport. If I just hadn't went on Saturday night. I just
Right.
think whatever went down, whether or not that's when the big plan was revealed and he was told what he's doing, what part he's playing, and look, we're going to take your kids as leverage to make sure that you do it right.
Right.
You know, you just don't know. Is there security footage out there that shows a meeting in the Lazy Dog of him and Kessinger and other people?
Yeah, because that's the only video footage we don't have.
Nope.
When I requested the discovery, like in early 2019, they provided all the footage, the McDonald's footage, the home base or whatever it is. Everything is in there, but not the Lazy Dog. And I know for a fact they have it because the manager of the Lazy Dog sent an email to Baumhofer, or a message even, saying he has everything ready to pick up. So where's that footage?
Yeah, that to me, Saturday night was crucial. I mean, I don't really want to look at images of what's changing a 20 for change for the babysitter in a gas station. It's of no interest to me. But what would have been interesting to me as a member of the public, and you know, for the prosecution to really get people on their side, that this guy's a real a-hole. You know, the night before his wife got home, like he's got a blooming babysitter, like looking after his kids while he's out with his lover, and here they are having a meal together, even if they blurred her face out. You know, it would have been so simple, they'd blur her out. But
Right.
it would have really got the public's goat up, going, ugh, he's so gross. But they
Yeah.
didn't. Why did they not? Why did they not release that footage to just dig him into a deeper grave? I don't get it. Why?
There's
It's
more
just
that
it's
there's
bizarre.
more they didn't release.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I've always said there's more questions about what they didn't put in the discovery than what they did.
Right.
I see somebody in
Definitely.
chat saying, could you look into why the Kessingers changed their name from Garcia? Well, I can tell you now, Jennifer. Little Miss Tanya up here had that information months back, and she's got the receipts, girl. She's got the receipts. She had that information before any of the creators put it out there that NK's previous family moniker was Garcia. But if you're having a look at the discovery, ladies, and if there's any gents in chat, and you pop Garcia into the search bar, there's another Garcia in the discovery. It's definitely a questionable Garcia. So have a
Right.
little look. Something we're definitely looking at, Jennifer. But there's definitely connections there to the Garcia name. But yeah,
Yeah.
you might see something about that in the future, but definitely about Lazy Dog, and definitely about things that have been left out of the discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, the car connection, Karen, you're right. Yeah, there's more than one Garcia. Let's put it that way. There's more than one. Right.
All right.
I
I
think
hope
we've
we
kept you
could.
guys long enough.
Oh yeah.
I know.
It must be so boring.
I know. I hope everybody realizes that, as I say again, we're taking the letter thing with a pinch of salt, but anything we do bring to you is factual and is
Right.
real. It's just how you want to interpret it. It's completely up to you. You know, you don't need to have the same feelings on it as us. Um, but the information is valid. It's just whatever you decide to do with it.
Yeah. Most of the things are easily explained, but
Yeah.
some stuff you just cannot explain. That's the problem. And this is when the questions are being raised. They just wrapped that case up so quickly that, we didn't even get the chance. And also keep in mind, guys, we only have the discovery of the prosecution. So we don't know what the other end was working on or found out or whatever.
That's right.
That's also something to keep in mind. Yeah, well, I hope you enjoyed that little extended life with the special on Ray. What's his name?
Ray Rivera
Ray
and
Rivera.
old William Morgan, my great 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 relative. I'm sure there's some connection. Everyone from America started off in Ireland at some point.
Right. Probably. All right, guys. Then I hope you're all well. Oh, shall we tell what we're doing next week?
Yeah, so guys, we're we are doing a video next week that we've already previewed, so anybody goes onto the channel and can watch the preview. And really, we're just going to, again, it's completely factual. We are going to play a audio interview and to give you an idea. The audio interview lasts, we're not playing the whole interview, by the way, so don't get scared when I say this.
No.
Lasted
Hell
an
no.
hour and a half. But we're not going to play the whole thing because some of it is just really mundane. And we will put a link to it, I believe, Tanya, in the description. So anyone that does want to listen to the whole thing, can feel free. But we're just going to play excerpts from it as we take you through the written report that matches it. And to give you an idea, an hour and 20-minute interview was 2 pages in the discovery. 2 pages.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I did a 45-minute interview recently that was notarized, and it came